Welcome to Merryfield's Gardening Advisor, brought to you by the experts at Merryfield Garden Center. Join us as we discover beautiful plants, new trends, and exciting ideas for your landscape. So let's get growing together. Merryfield's Gardening Advisor, bringing out the best in your garden.
And good morning indeed. It is a beautiful day and we've got so much going on. I'm Peg Beer and I'm standing in for Debbie Cap, who's taking a much needed short break. And today's show is going to be fantastic, so just grab your cup of coffee or your cup of tea and stick with us because we have Nicole Schimmerhorn. Welcome, Nicole.
Thanks, Peggy.
Nicole co-owns with her husband a Thyme to Plant herb farm out from Richmond, and it's organic, and we at the garden center buy most of our herbs from Nicole. She's a wealth of information. So what are a few of the things you're going to share with us today?
Well, we're going to talk about planning, planting, and harvesting your herb garden today.
That's a lot.
There's a lot to cover, yes.
That's a lot to cover.
Yeah.
And here again, I have the pleasure of having Nicole with me last evening and invited my youngest daughter to come over also because they have so much in common. And we just chatted about all the wonderful world of herbs, particularly the medicinal side of it.
We did. Last night we talked a lot about that.
How very healthy it is. So I don't know how much of that she'll be able to interject. I'm sure she'll be able to interject quite a bit. But we will be taking the entire hour to share her information. So forgive us for not having phone calls today, but there will be no phone calls. There are announcements, however, because there's so much going on at the Garden Center, and I would love to encourage you to come and to take advantage of it. In fact, if we bring up those screens, we'll tell you about the seminars first. At our Merryfield location, we are going to have a seminar on fragrant gardens, and Renata Holt will be doing that. And fragrance is so important in our lives, in our gardens. She'll tell you about what you can use, but where you can place it to enjoy it most. And boy, does that tie in well with the next one, which is going to be at the Fair Oaks location, Growing Herbs. Nicole Schimmerhorn, which is the co-owner of the Thyme to Plant Herb Farm, with us today. She and I are going to be racing out to the Fair Oaks location, and she's going to give that particular program. Now, does that ever tie in with Renata's program on fragrant gardens? Because herbs have such incredible fragrance. They're such a delightful part of our garden. And then a little unusual now, so this we'd like you to make note of. Normally we have a program at 10 o'clock at the Gainesville location, but not today, because when Nicole finishes at the Fair Oaks location, she's going out to the Gainesville location, and at 2 p.m. she's also going to talk to all of you out there about herbs. So I really, really want to encourage you all to take advantage of these. Next week we will continue with our seminars. Guess what? I'm going to be doing container gardening at the Fair Oaks location, and I really love doing that, so I invite you to come to those. We're going to cover spring flowering shrubs and ground covers and vines at Gainesville location on Sundays, Saturday and Sunday. So by all means, come to those. Now, I have actually a couple more announcements before we get into this world of herbs.
Go ahead.
The Potomac Hosta Club is going to have their annual spring meeting tomorrow from 2 until 4 at the Fair Oaks location, and invite all of you who are interested in gardening, particularly with hostas, to come and join them. But they're going to have a wonderful speaker, and it's so nice to take advantage of these speakers because it's a wonderful sharing of information. We all have different things that we're interested in, and although it's a big horticultural world, each one that specializes is great to share. He is responsible for the National Museum of Natural History, butterfly garden, and bird habitat. So that's a very important thing, that it will be happening tomorrow from 2 to 4, and you are invited to come and join in that. Another thing that Debbie asked me to tell you is that Teco block, which is a pavers and surfacing type of thing, has a huge truck that's outfitted with all these pavers and descriptions of how to use them and so forth. I have seen this truck and walked through it at some of the big shows.
Yep.
But they're going to bring it out to the Fair Oaks location next week from Monday through, I think, through the weekend. But, you know, if you're interested in pavers and surfacing out in your garden, this is a wonderful opportunity to see some of the things that are available and to walk through that trailer. So, all those announcements, all those wonderful things that are going on that you can take advantage of, but let's take advantage first of who's sitting next to me. And I'm very pleased to have you, Nicole, as always. I know the knowledge you've accumulated and anxious to share. So among all these herbs right here, people often ask me, what is your favorite?
Okay. Is it okay to have 15 favorites?
I always say it's the one I'm standing in front of.
It's the one I'm talking about. When we grow 250 varieties of herbs and vegetables, so it's hard to have just one favorite.
You can't do it, but you got to pick just one.
Okay. Well, lavender. Can we have lavender as a group?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's talk about lavender
as a group.
Yeah. And
we'll talk more probably about this as the show goes on. We don't have time to talk about the culture, which is so important.
Yes, yeah, we'll talk about growing, but let's just talk about this plant in particular. This is a fernleaf lavender. Has an unusual smell. It's more the camphor smell, not one that you would cook with, but it is absolutely beautiful, and my favorite thing is that it blooms non-stop from April till frost. The hummingbirds and the butterflies and the bees all love it. Yeah. And this is the one my husband says, if you can't grow lavender, grow this, because it's an annual. You have to grow it as an annual. You're going to lose it anyway.
True. But as she says, the annuals are so worthwhile because they are wonderful fillers in our garden.
Exactly.
And this is a great cut flower also.
Oh, beautiful cut flower.
It's
absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yep. So it has lots of places.
We were going to talk a little bit about the types of herb gardens in this segment, but we had so many wonderful announcements to share.
Right.
That we're going to hold that picture.
Good.
And when we're going to take a break right now, and when we come back, Nicole and I are going out into the garden with you, where it's a little easier to talk about the styles of your garden. So we'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to Mary Field's Gardening Advisor. And now Nicole and I are in the virtual garden, and we were looking at those nighttime temperatures. Those are the ones that she and we watch very closely.
Yes.
And she is co-owner of A Time to Plant, and it is a time to plant.
That's right. Yay! Finally.
Yes, finally we've come to this. There's no snow on the ground. We can actually see it. The nighttime temperatures are looking good. And with the herbs, most of those have been cooled down nicely. Now there are some exceptions, which
like basil.
We'll talk about. Basil needs to be kept inside for a while. It likes warm soil, okay?
Yep.
But we at the Garden Center are going to tell you those things.
Absolutely.
Especially if you ask, you know.
Yep.
You can't always tell unless somebody didn't ask.
That's right.
But first we're going to start with the styles of the herb garden, and where do you use those wonderful herbs and vegetables, because
Absolutely.
they grow vegetables too. It's all organic.
Yes.
And so I used a slide that I had taken several years ago. It's actually the private garden of a master gardener, and my, to have the space and the money.
Yep.
But
let's have a look at it.
Is this the epitome of what you would dream?
Absolutely.
An herb garden.
Yep.
So
very formal.
It's very formal, but look what it's got.
Exactly. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to accomplish this formality, you have it in spots too, where I think I did the little box hedging or the tucrium or
Yes,
any of
yep.
those things.
Yep.
But I think this is fantastic. It has the boxwood.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Or you could use the jamander instead of the boxwood.
Yes.
Yep.
You absolutely could.
Yep.
It has lavender with great drainage. It has on the perimeter spaces for all of the
maybe
tomatoes.
the annuals, and the tomatoes that you can mix in.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a tremendous mix of things. It's got the shrubs.
Yes. It's got a lot of bones, and then you could fill in.
Absolutely.
Which it looks
and
beautiful.
then the next one, which Nicole and I are much more familiar with, if we bring that one up, it's actually in my garden.
Right.
In the next picture, you're going to see informality, okay? We bring up that picture. There we go.
Right.
Okay, Nicole,
Good.
take off. What do you see?
Well, let's see. We see some. I see some sorrel, and then some salvias, some iris mixed in there too. Right.
That's right.
Yep. And then you go ahead and.
Here,
I'm not as familiar
we've
with
got
this
the
picture.
sorrel.
Okay.
And you can eat the sorrel.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's got a lemony flavor to it. The younger leaves I prefer in the salads and things like that.
They can get a little tough when they're going on, okay?
Yep.
And then, as you said, different types of salvia, and there's so many different types. The edible salvia, which I found demands incredible drainage.
Right, yes, yeah, they do. Most of your Mediterranean herbs, which are your sages, your thymes, your rosemaries, your lavenders, like well drained soil.
So in a nice, really big strawberry jar, which is kind of a feature in the garden.
That is
I
beautiful.
Like things, as long as there's not too many things in one spot. But over in this area, there's actually onions growing, which can be put in right now.
Absolutely. The onion starts.
Perfect time. A time to plant. What is it time to plant?
Your onions, any of your
lettuce.
kales, your lettuce, your cilantro, which is a cool weather crop.
I forgot that the cilantro was.
Yeah.
That's a great thing because cilantro is a short-term
short-lived annual. Yes.
You go ahead and use it up and put some more in.
Yes, exactly. Successive sowing.
This summer, about every 2 or 3 weeks.
Every 2 or 3 weeks is perfect, and you can even freeze that too for the summertime if you have an abundance.
How do you freeze yours in ice cubes, maybe?
In ice cubes, exactly. A little bit of water in the food processor to make it into a paste. Put those in ice cube trays and into the freezer.
And then you've got cilantro to use when you're ready.
Exactly, and your salsa and things.
Which is great.
Yep.
But within this garden, it's been very satisfying over so many years for me because it is such a combination of things. Light, as she is going to talk to you as we go along, is so important for all these sunshine.
Yes.
I really only get 5 to 6 hours of direct sun here. So I'm not going to tell you that I grow the best tomato in the world.
Right.
But I grow all the other things, the green beans, the squash, and all the herbs do well for me.
Yep.
Even the lavender has done well.
That's great.
And here again, this is again in my own garden because I enjoy the mix. I don't have the space with sun to have just an herb garden but I love the mix.
I think the mix is to me, why just have an herb garden when you can have herbs throughout your garden? You know, you want to spread the joy.
Within the borders and everything. And you
Absolutely. Yes, we do.
At your place.
Yeah, we do. We have about an acre of plants. Yeah.
Some of those plants.
So we noticed the marigolds throughout the garden here, throughout the borders.
Through here.
Absolutely.
And over in here.
Yeah. So they're the French marigolds that are edible, and then they're great repellent herbs too. So they're wonderful in the garden. They
are repellents, but I'm also told that the root system itself helps with
the bad nematodes in the soil. Yes.
Things.
Yep. You can use them to repatriate the soils to get them clean again. Right. And the one thing I was reading up on it, this week, preparing for the seminars, and if you leave those marigolds at the end of the season and just dig them in, that's some of the best way to clean your soil.
And this is the case too, being farmer's daughter. Okay, the legumes that we have nitrogen naturally.
Exactly.
Really shouldn't be just jerked out of the soil and thrown away.
No, they should be worked in and used almost as a living compost.
Absolutely. Or if you don't want to literally work it in, you can cut them off and just leave it.
Let them to compost naturally.
Right.
Absolutely.
So that's the case with the marigolds. See, this is how you learn those tidbits of what's important. If it helps to, doesn't harm the good guys in the soil.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely
but
not.
Helps with the ones that are not. Let's move on from here. They're telling me we're talking so much.
All right, all right. Here we go.
Okay, another favorite.
Absolutely, rosemary.
Rosemary.
Yeah. That's a beautiful evergreen perennial. Typically, now you and I talked about we have all suffered some losses this winter.
Yes, and that's one of them.
I think so. We still haven't trimmed some of ours. We've left it, hoping that there'll be some green. What we'll do is we'll trim it, maybe 2 or 3 inches. If we see some life in that stem, we'll leave it. I would recommend some organic compost to give it a little bit of feed right now to see if it'll come back. If not, the exciting thing is we have plenty of plants at the nursery, the garden center, that we can start again.
And that sometimes is just simply what we have to do.
Exactly. Yep.
We've said rosemary, particularly ARP.
Yes, and the Salem.
Hill, the Salem.
Yes.
Certain varieties. The prostrate is not
as hardy.
No, I don't think so.
Yep.
But anyway, those are hardy, but we've had an unusual year.
We have.
And we may just have to start over. But a good thing is if you can snap that stem, it's dead.
It's dead, exactly. Yeah.
Don't be too quick to take everything away.
Absolutely.
And don't use that shovel on everything, because some of these things, like Nandina,
yes,
are maybe fine. They're going to come out from the base or
right,
even from the top.
Well, and your chives will too, and your French tarragon, they'll come out from the base.
Right.
Yep.
Now, just a quick thing about the chives before we have to move on.
Okay. Look, these are the onion chives blooming. Absolutely beautiful blooms, completely edible. They can go in a stir fryer and a salad. But as we talked about, they do need trimming down to stop them just overtaking the garden. You have to be very careful with them reseeding.
And then they come back.
Oh, 2 weeks later, they're back and they're beautiful again. We talked about 2 weeks between a good and bad haircut.
Absolutely does. That's fantastic. So here again is the sorrel that you saw earlier. You can see the container that has sage growing. But I have sage in the ground too.
Yes.
Yep. And sometimes labeled too, because my grandchildren love to go out on taste things.
Exactly. Pick and chew.
And it helps to teach them what. Now, unfortunately, this was taken several years ago, and I've broken these. But now, again, the grandchildren and I have painted the names on some stone.
Right. Absolutely.
And it works really well too. I think we'll do one more pick, and then we'll need to take a break. Let's just one more.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Yep.
I do, as I said, enjoy fun things in the garden, and I love this because there's onions growing in here too.
Right. Yeah.
But the kale.
The kale is gorgeous, isn't it? That's a decorative kale. Now you can eat that too. That's that spicy, and it looks like some of the dinosaur kale too, which is really full of nutrients. Great out of the garden. Raw in a salad, or cooked with some greens.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
and these are available right now as transplants.
Exactly.
And this is the time to plant.
Exactly. We've said that. And I see some parsley there too. We didn't.
Parsley.
How green that
absolutely.
is, and beautiful.
And since parsley is a biennial,
yes,
need to get that in the ground
exactly,
because it's such a beneficial. And if you see caterpillars, don't kill them.
That's right. They're butterflies. They're baby butterflies.
So we've shared this part of the garden. We're going to continue to share all this wealth of information that Nicole has. We'll take a break. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to Merrifield's Gardening Advisor, and to Nicole from A Time to Plant, who is sharing this wealth of information. We were just out in the garden talking about where do you use these plants, and like the lettuces, which need to go in the ground right now.
Absolutely.
Make a great border.
They do. They make a wonderful edible border.
Absolutely.
And all the different colors you can get too, like the gourmet mix has the red and the green and almost the yellow in there.
It's so
beautiful.
inviting. And each one has a slightly different
flavor.
Taste or flavor, yes.
Absolutely.
And what a wonderful, wonderful, healthy mix. We talked a little bit about marigolds in the garden and with the little statue who's crying because of the onions nearby. But just a quick thing, you've got some over there.
We do.
You know, there's a word that's so often used, it's ubiquitous.
Right.
There are no plants that fit that for me.
Right.
Because it's how you use them.
Yes, yeah.
I love these French marigolds.
Me too. I love them. I love anything that's edible as well as being beautiful. And so I can't get that
There
straight.
we go.
There you go. You got it. I'm sorry.
Debbie's the best at this.
Is she? Well, I'm going to let you do it.
Okay.
I'm going to just talk. But love the marigolds. Now, the one thing we have learned about them, okay, for the repellent properties, if it doesn't smell, it doesn't repel.
Smell and repel.
Yep. So
the rhyming thing.
Exactly. The ones you see that, you know, they've bred the smell out, that they're just for prettiness, they're not going to work as a repellent.
Right.
Repellent
Okay.
herb. But make sure it smells. Now, some people, I don't like the smell. Well, you know what? Neither do the bugs, and that's why we're growing them. So, you know, but also their beauty in a herbal vinegar in the fall. Absolutely. You know, the petals. Oh yeah, just beautiful.
Oh, I hadn't thought about them. Never tried that either.
Absolutely. They're beautiful.
Marigolds have great value. She said, leave the root system in, chop it off, work it in, and do that. Okay, our time is disappearing, but let's go on and talk about some of these other herbs.
Okay.
Sage. There's so many different kinds of sage.
Absolutely. Now this is a non-culinary variety, so not an eating sage.
This is the Mexican
bush sage.
Bush sage that you're seeing in the picture.
Yep.
And actually, when you come back to the set, she has a little baby here. Now, this little baby that's in my hand will get to be 3 feet tall.
Absolutely. Yep. And will look
In
like
this
that
season.
photo that we saw.
Absolutely.
Yes, that's a photo from our farm. It's a late summer bloomer. So everything else is kind of finished, and your Mexican bush sage is just starting to bloom.
Picks up in the fall.
Absolutely. Doesn't mind a drought, so does not mind being dry, which is nice. You know, we almost always have a drought in Virginia. It's just when.
Right.
6 weeks with no rain.
Anyway.
Yeah, somewhere between June and August we have 6 weeks of no rain. So this will still do beautifully. You saw the color in a cut flower, as you mentioned. A cut flower arrangement is absolutely spectacular. The bees, the hummingbirds, and the butterflies love it. Because purple for me.
Absolutely, and it makes a great dried flower too.
It does,
And the next one coming up is taken in your garden, and you tell them about this blend.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
This blend is under there's a dogwood that sits up behind the rocks there, and so it's this kind of bare patch of ground that we planted the parsley in. Now it's hard to see, but there is the curly and the flat leaf Italian in there. There's some Russian sage off to the
that's the gray one.
The gray one, yes, exactly, and the rosemary's on the other side. So you see we've mixed in the herbs. We call this here, this is our butterfly nursery. And you mentioned the caterpillars on your butterflies. If it's a swallowtail caterpillar, you're going to have swallowtail butterflies. So feed your caterpillars and you'll have butterflies.
Absolutely.
You know,
just plant enough for everybody.
Exactly, and that's why that swath of parsley is theirs.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the next one in line, when we were saying, what is your absolute favorite? Oh my goodness. Yes, the one I'm standing in front of, but this has got to be one of the top,
all-time favorites,
which is the nasturtium. And people do not grow enough of this. I love to put the plants in right now.
Yes.
So that I get immediate gratification.
Absolutely.
And then tuck in a few seeds to come on a little later.
Exactly.
You know? But woo.
And the trick for us that we've found at the farm is part shade. A lot of your English books will talk about the nasturtiums in full sun.
Right.
But for us, we feel like the sun is just, especially the afternoon sun, is just too strong for them.
Right.
And so the part shade really works for us. These will bloom, and I brought a pot with me from the farm. These will bloom from now until the frost again. So it depends when we have that frost. You see this orange color right here that's going to pop out and just be beautiful.
Yeah.
Every part of the plant's edible too. The leaves are edible, the blooms are edible. Stan will use these leaves on a sandwich. They've got a little bit of spicy arugula It's an arugula flavor, I think, with a mix of horseradish.
It can smart a little bit.
Yeah, but that's if you like that, it's good. If you don't like that,
it's great. But it's great for dressing off.
A
the
salad.
Edges of things, or salads and things. And the leaves, this one's a variegated leaf.
Exactly. Yep.
It's just beautiful. And I think peach melba.
Gosh, it is. We call that peach melba.
It's there are those that will climb, like the little fence that we showed you in my own formal garden.
Yep.
They'll climb that little iron fence.
Exactly. Hanging baskets too, because they'll trail or they'll climb.
Yes.
So hanging baskets, they're absolutely gorgeous in hanging basket.
And they love the cool weather, although they will bloom amazingly
in some
with shade.
Yep,
in the
with
heat.
some shade in the heat.
But you can go ahead and put these things in now when we're not teasing, when we keep saying a time to plant.
Right.
These are the things that you can come in with the temperatures we've got at night next week.
Absolutely.
You can get them settled in,
safely.
And they should be good.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
mostly
nasturtiums. All right. I think we've got another one or two in this segment, which I think ties well together. If we bring up the next picture, that here again, this is a favorite spot for this time of the year because you've got three very cold tolerant things.
Exactly.
Here.
Yep. You've got your parsley, your violas, and your variegated nasturtiums. Make a beautiful combination, completely edible. Right. All that could go in your salad.
Absolutely. Wouldn't that be a beautiful addition to your salad?
Absolutely.
And the children can go out and pick them. It's fantastic. And here again, we've come back into my herb garden again, and containers.
Yep.
You can do it in containers too.
And that's the other variety of nasturtium that doesn't have the variegation. That's that looks like the trailing, or maybe the jewel mix. Yep.
In combination with, as you can see, a rose that is behind it there.
Yep.
A word about thymes. Just touch on it right now, and then we'll come into it later. I think we may have. Oh, she's telling me it's break time. Let's hold the time.
Great,
Let's
do
hang
that.
on to the time.
We wish we could.
Don't we though? So we'll be back in a moment to share other ideas on the herb gardening. Welcome back to Merrifield's Gardening Advisor. We're talking so much about composting and what to use and fragrances, but we'll work in as much as possible. But let's get back to thyme.
Absolutely, get some time back.
Because we did salmon last night, broiled salmon.
Yes.
And I chopped up the fresh, in fact used some of Nicole's because it's nice and fresh, and chopped some of the lemon thyme.
Right.
Some of the dill.
Yep.
What else did I put on there?
Well, the olive oil.
Yeah, but there were three. Chives.
Chives, that was it, yes.
And broiled it with that. It was quite good.
Very, very good.
It was quite good.
It was very good.
And so you see there's many uses for all of these. It didn't take that much.
No.
You know, you can get these into the ground now. Go out and snip little bits because that keeps them growing.
Start using them. Herbs are designed to be used. The more you use them, the healthier new growth you get. So about a third of the herb at any one time off the plant. That's the most that I would do.
And then move on to another one.
Exactly, and then come back.
Here again, thyme is beautiful in the border too, and thyme took a hit.
Thyme has taken a hit this year.
I mean, we had almost 0 degrees weather.
Yes.
You know, it was terrible. But look at the coloration in those, if I can hold them properly.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, this is your silver edge or your hi-ho silver thyme. So it has an English flavor to it, but all that variegation just gives you lots of color in containers or in the ground. This one here is your lime.
Ooh, it
thyme.
Smells so
so
good.
the smell, exactly. Any kind of citrus, it would have been also good with the salmon last night. And then this one, if I can hold up and get in next to you, this is your French thyme. A lot more complex flavors there. This tiny pointed leaf just looks gorgeous in the containers as well. But again, in the ground, you can almost make this into a border because it would get a woody stem, look like a little, almost a miniature bush, which is very pretty, and you can trim that up. Again, those complex flavors really do well. Anything that goes with red wine kind of goes with French thyme.
I love thyme. I really, really do, and try to grow several. The citron, the lemon, the lime, and the regular vulgaris thyme. to do all of that.
Yep.
So that's a wonderful thing. And I think our next picture that we're bringing up is chives again, and we talked a little bit about the use of these. This is another plant that I cook with a great deal. What are your favorite? I know you do too.
Yes, and chives is one I find, because it's so perennial, like it's so hardy. You can have snow on the ground and your chives are sitting up going, I'm ready, I'm ready. You know, just scrambled eggs. You can just really change up your scrambled eggs. Right. A potato with some sour cream and some chives right out of the garden. You know, fresh is best. So if you can get them straight out of your garden, because, you know, for us we grow organically, so, you know, a lot of times I don't even have to wash the herbs. I'm a lazy cook. Right. So if I like it, if I can just chop them up right there and then add them to you know, some sour cream.
I really do enjoy the organic, and everything they do down there is organic, and we try to keep it that way when it gets to the garden center. Yes, it does have some of the other annuals around, but that's okay. Now, this one, a few secrets about basil. So many different kinds. Woo.
There is. There's many kinds. All of your basils are edible, even your purples. You know, they have a little different flavor, but they're completely edible. They look great in a herbal vinegar. Your purple basils will turn the vinegar a pink color, and then you'll have that flavor for the winter for a salad dressing. Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yep.
Ooh, I love it.
Yeah, this is a Genovese basil. It has that glossy green leaf, but yes, they do not like it cold. If you're wearing a jacket, then your basil shouldn't be outside. We talked about that last night.
Good indicator. Yeah. Yes, if you've got a jacket on, don't plant your tomatoes and basil in the ground yet.
Exactly.
You know,
or your peppers.
Because it's not just air temperatures.
No, it's roots for the root as well.
Soil.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you can enjoy this in the sunny window.
Exactly. You can be clipping on this, ready to plant, you know, in the next couple of weeks when it does warm up.
By all means, buy it. But
absolutely.
Just keep it in a sunny window.
Start using it.
Yeah. Let's touch on mint.
Okay. This is a photograph again from our farm of the Kentucky Colonel spearmint. And a favorite. You know, we talked about favorites. Right. This is a favorite. Just the smell of this will just bring you right to the summer. To an iced tea, to I know exactly, to lemonade. Now we make a mint lemonade at the farm, and this is a great one to do that. Make a mint tea and add that to a lemonade recipe. Very, very refreshing. Your mints are invasive. Be careful. If you see him, he's already trying to jump ship, and so is he here too. You see that? He's trying to get out. And we have to be in control of that. So we like nice big pot, and you know we talked about that on the patio. Not in the ground. In the ground, it'll just send out its roots and take over regardless of the pot. So it needs to be in a pot above the ground. And that's the best way to keep it from taking over. Unless, of course, you have a space you want it to fill in. You know, a sunny bank.
And some people do.
Absolutely.
You know, I'd spoken to her down by the creek at my place. I think I'm going to try one area because I have put this in the ground. And I have been sorry.
Oh, you'll be sorry.
Because it's one of those that she says just takes over. Yep. But oh, so worth it. And I love, this is spearmint, which is very traditional.
Yes.
I love the peppermint too. We were talking about the essential oils and having the peppermint because it just opens you so much.
Absolutely. You know? It makes a great tea, you know,
yes,
for that reason.
Too.
Yep. With the colds and things around. So there's a peppermint. You see that smaller leaf. It's a little bit more pointy actually in this
very
case.
Very different than these.
Than the spearmint varieties. And then there's a chocolate peppermint too. So talk about favorites. That's one of my favorites.
Really?
We make an ice cream with that, with the chocolate peppermint. And the other thing we do is take handfuls of the chocolate peppermint, put it in with your coffee grinds, and brew the coffee over that. Brew the water over that, I should say, to make chocolate peppermint coffee. In the summer, as a low calorie, or no calorie actually, if you add a little bit of creamer, a few calories, but it makes a great summertime drink. Iced.
That's really, really neat. Okay. We're going to take another break, and we're going to come back and continue to talk about the different kinds of herbs, how we can use them, and where we can plant them.
Yep,
all those goodies. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to Mary Field's Gardening Advisor. Oh yes, it's a time to plant.
Yay!
Those pansies, those violas, those wonderful herbs.
Yep.
You can do it now because they love the cool weather.
Absolutely.
Now that we're not predicting 0, and hopefully we'll get through a Monday or Tuesday without snow.
Exactly. It'd be nice, won't it?
I think
Wonderful.
it'll be fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of territory to cover, and a couple of pictures let's bring up, because this is at your place, which I so enjoyed visiting, but here's a hedging that I just love.
Absolutely. This is the germander. We mentioned it earlier. You know, you can use it instead of boxwoods. It's a pretty evergreen, and it looks to us at the farm, it's gotten through. Doesn't look this pretty, but it's still got some green on it, so that's a good thing. We'll trim it up now as we see those nighttime temperatures. It's time to go ahead and trim up in your garden now. Anything you think is, you know, is still alive, as you mentioned, don't take the shovel to it yet. Just take some pruners and you know, snip away, see if you see any kind of new growth on it. And then this is in there hedging some echinacea. I see some lamb's ear, a sedum, and then a salvia there too. So really you can mix it in, add some formality as you mentioned, but we still have a very eclectic, almost cottage style garden that you can use those plants you know, to give you some formality.
And it was just beautiful. The mix is so fantastic. And again, the next picture, we need to run through some of these. The next picture I actually took when I was visiting down. This was just working alive with the bees.
Honeybees.
And don't be afraid of the honeybees. We need those bees. And they're not aggressive.
Absolutely not.
No.
We've never had anybody stung by a honeybee at the farm.
Honeybee, right.
And we've been keeping bees. We have up to 30 hives on, we have 40 acres there. We keep up to 30 hives on the property. And the bees, this would have to be their all-time favorite. It's the African blue basil. So again, it can't go out yet, but when it can go out, this is a stand, and it's about 20 plants.
Right.
That you saw
it's
there
a large space.
that fill in beautifully. As far as a cut flower, absolutely gorgeous. The bees like it. We use it in wreaths at the end of the season. Drying it and fresh, because it has a very woody stem. Yeah. So it holds up beautifully in cut flower arrangements, holds up beautifully in those cut wreaths. And then you saw that mixed in with some eucalyptus, which I think we've lost this year.
Well, that's a touch and go.
It is.
And some things that are marginal for us, we have lost when we just have to blink, swallow hard, and move on.
And move on. Well, I'm excited. We get to kind of replant almost, you know.
Well, this is true.
Yeah.
You've got another palette, and you can take off with that. I want to reiterate that was basil, and it was the African blue, and it was beautiful. Now, okay, it is April.
Yes.
We have good nighttime temperatures looking us in the face now, which I'm so grateful for.
We are too.
But we could have something dip down to 32 again, and I keep frost cloth, and you said you all have sold out of it almost.
We have, yeah, at our retail store. We've sold out of frost blanket.
Now, different people have different ways of securing it, but these are like huge hairpins.
Yep.
They're sod pins, and it's so easy.
Exactly, yeah, to take on and off. You know what else we use those for? When you start seeing those moths, the cabbage moths, if you can stop them laying on your vegetables, then you won't have the worm. And so you can run out with that frost blanket, cover them during the day when the cabbage moths are out, take it off at night, and then you don't get the cabbage worm.
That's fantastic.
So,
and you know, Nicole, I have been using this fabric for a lot of years. It's very lightweight.
Yes.
Light goes through it, and air and all of that good stuff, but not the bugs.
Exactly.
And what I have done is I'm going to, within the next day or two when it stops raining, put in my herbs and my lettuce and so forth. Put this frost cloth on very loosely so that it can grow.
Yep.
That's going to protect not just the possible nighttime temperatures, but it's also going to take care of the bugs.
Exactly, which is just a
that's what I do. To me, this frost cloth is invaluable.
It is.
But you don't just stretch it tight.
No, no.
You put it loosely over.
Almost hoop it.
When you plant all of these young little plants, sometimes the birds will pick at it, and that will stop that, you know.
Yes, exactly.
And
keep
so
some for you.
that's a great thing with that. Weed control. Let's talk a little bit before we go into the next segment. Let's talk a little bit about weed control. Okay. This is one of my methods between the rows. I plant so densely that I don't have room to do this.
That's right. Yeah, that's perfect. And that's weed control right there. Planting densely.
I know that you do that.
Yeah.
And you did that with the basil. There were no weeds there.
No. Well, really what happens is it grows up big like that, the light can't get through. So if the light can't get through, then the weeds can't grow. So yeah, dense plantings is nice. That's newspaper that you've done. Newspaper, the other thing we're finding is cardboard is lasting a little bit longer than the newspaper.
Right.
So that's nice too, to put that down and then put your mulch on top of that.
Just being sure though that the moisture goes through. The only reason I haven't used the cardboard is I'm just afraid that the moisture won't get through, as it does with the
newspaper, yeah. We've used the cardboard successfully, so.
And it's worked.
It has, yeah.
And I love mulching on top with the pine needles.
Okay.
Because the rain and everything gets through, and I can nestle it around some of the things, and the air still goes through.
Yes. Yep.
So that's a great thing. So there's more tip coming. We have one more segment to go, and we'll be back with Nicole in just a moment. Welcome back to Mary Field's Gardening Advisor, and a final few tips from our Nicole today. So let's hit a couple of important things, because this is the segment we have to go out on, okay?
Yep.
You've got to stake things.
Yes, you do.
Tomatoes, etc.
Tomatoes, etc. But also some of your herbs too, like your lemon verbena that'll get kind of 3 feet tall. I love to stake that so it's not laying on the ground after a storm. You know, then I'm not having to clean it before I use it. So those pepper cages are perfect for that. There's new colors that I've seen.
They're wonderful. There's reds and oranges.
Exactly. And purples.
It's fun.
So that makes it fun in the garden too, and so it can look pretty, and then you get the form of the plant, you know, without a lot of maintenance.
This is true. And also Bob Warhurst came up with this 2-part large heavy thing that's great for tomatoes.
Oh, good.
And you can join it together, or you can stretch it out as I've got it here, and grow beans on it.
Ah, that's
it's
perfect.
It's so strong.
Well, and I like it too. You can fit your hand through to get your tomatoes. That's important.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
So staking can be attractive. You can even, in conjunction with this, is what I do. And unfortunately, I lost a large willow, which was down by the creek, and I'm going to use some of those. I do grow a lot of things in containers. Sometimes I have to go find this one.
Yes, exactly. And then these, you know, look at that beautiful collection. I mean, that is, you know, that's spectacular. And you can grow almost all of these herbs and veggies in containers. The right potting mix, you know, of course we'd recommend an organic potting mix. In the ground, you did want me to mention, in the ground, full sun and good drainage is what the herbs like. We love to mix in some organic compost. I like the mushroom compost, but I know, you know, you have other selections at the garden center. And just that good drainage is the most important thing for the herbs and the vegetables.
Yes, in the ground particularly. Most of us are blessed with this Virginia clay, or clay. And for those of you who are over in Maryland, we share. We don't believe in keeping it to ourselves.
No, we like to share.
But turning sand and compost, and particularly the compost, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But these herbs don't like to have a lot. Let's hold that one for just a moment, because that's a very special thing I want to share just before we leave, okay? He is growing that in containers, by the way.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
With growing things in the ground.
Yes, so full sun, good drainage. You mentioned the top, we didn't mention topsoil, but a nice clean topsoil mix, 1/3 of that, 1/3 organic compost, and 1/3 builder's sand is what we like. The builder's sand add lots of drainage, not the play sand, but the builder's sand that's, you know, big chunky pieces of sand.
Makes a difference.
Exactly. Yes. Oh, it makes a big difference. Play sand will compact and hold water. That's not what we want.
Not good.
We're looking for good drainage.
Okay, we've had this one up, and we'll keep it there for a second more. This is our Eamon, who is, in a couple of years ago, grew the potatoes, and there's so many different kinds of potatoes.
Oh, yes.
The little
and
ones is purple.
Time to plant potatoes.
It is. It's a time to plant.
Yep.
Potatoes. Absolutely. They grew beautifully in this bushel basket. But a lot of the other herbs do too.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's amazing.
You could mix in some herbs with that, some dill on top, because they're a root crop. You can grow some leafy crops. The marigolds plant well, help keep some of the bugs off the potatoes. Mix it in so you can't get weeds. You know, give it a good coverage on top, and have beauty and. Well, it's not a beast, it's potatoes.
No, it's a potato.
Yeah.
And showing you in the next picture, he was so excited because he has the harvest. Now, what better can we do with our young of today?
Yes.
But to give them something they can have success with.
And then fun to take those potatoes, you know, show them how to wash them, add some herbs to cook them, or, you know, boil them, just gently boil them, cut them, add some parsley, some chives, and a little bit of butter, and for them to sit and enjoy something that they've grown.
Actually, you know, when he finished harvesting those, and they'd grown the green beans too. These are two things that are easy to succeed with.
Yes. And
you want them to succeed.
Yep.
He took them inside. He cooked them.
Right.
And he ate them.
Exactly.
This, often they'll eat as they're in the garden.
Oh, yes.
Now, those were baskets. Stephanie Brock at our Fair Oaks location. I think it's on Wednesday. And you'll need to go on the website and make a reservation, but she's going to help you plant in a pallet garden.
Oh, a vertical garden.
Which is a vertical garden. So keep that in mind. It's been wonderful having you with us, Nicole, here on the show.
Thanks, Peggy.
She's going to leave here, go to the Fair Oaks location, talk a great deal more about herbs. We invite you to choose one of these seminars because it's fantastic to have you come and to be with us. And it was fantastic sharing all of this. It was great sharing all this information last night.
Yes.
But this is the time to share, but it's also a time to plant.
That's right.
We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today.